I had another argument with Shun Kai because of his ex-wife. Our 10-year-old son rushed in and shouted at me angrily, "Dad and I just want to be with my biological mom, to reunite as a family of 3, you're an outsider. What right do you have to control us?" An outsider, that's how he defined me. The one he called mom for 7 years, and Shun Kai, standing by, did nothing to discipline our son for his rudeness toward me. He supported him with silence. At this moment, the persistence of the past 7 years suddenly collapsed. I'm tired. Later, I remarried, and Shun Kai's son came to see me. Mom. My husband stood on the terrace, holding our newborn daughter in his arms, looking down and saying, "Kid, not just anyone can call my wife Mom. Dr. Shun, can you control your son?" I sat in the car and watched as Shun Kai, holding his son's hand, walked out of his ex-wife Su Shaoqing's villa with her by his side. No, not an ex-wife, to be precise, an ex-girlfriend. 10 years ago, one was a talented youth from a humble background, the other a wealthy heiress. 2 people who should never have met fell passionately in love and even reached the point of discussing marriage. But love could not withstand reality. The girl got pregnant before marriage and still couldn't get married. After giving birth to a boy, she was sent abroad by her family to marry someone else, and 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Shun Kai had to raise the child alone while working. Struggling and exhausted, it wasn't until 7 years ago, when I went to the hospital for treatment, that I met him, the surgeon. After much persistence, I became his first wife and the second mother to his son. From then on, his son had someone to care for him, and his dinner was always prepared. When he returned home late after surgery, there was always a warm light left for him in the entryway. A seemingly happy family came into being through my efforts. But now, Su Shaoqing has returned. She was wearing an elegant cheongsam, her long, seaweed-like hair cascading over her shoulders, and she knocked on my door with an overwhelming grace. She had made it clear that she had no intention of interfering in my marriage with Shun Kai. She was only here to see the child, but it seems Shun Kai doesn't see it that way. It is now 2 in the afternoon, and he has a very important surgery. The patient has waited a full 3 months for his schedule. At this moment, he should be in the operating room, focusing all his attention on his patient, not by his ex-wife's side, gazing at his former lover with ardent eyes, together with his son, and in 7 years of marriage, he never once cast such a gaze upon me, not even once. Shun Sishao, the son, tightly held Su Shaoqing's hand, whining and pleading loudly, "Mom, let's go to the amusement park together. Dad and Mom have never played with me together. How is that possible? Every weekend I have to ride the roller coaster with Shun Kai to accompany him." Oh, I'm being sentimental again. The mother he mentioned wasn't me, it was his biological mother. Although Shun Kai remained silent beside them, his eager gaze was a warm invitation directed at Su Shaoqing. He stood tall and straight beside his former lover, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. 10 years had passed, and they were both around 40, yet time seemed to have taken nothing from them. A grand and remarkable adult fairy tale continued to unfold. The fruit of their love stood between them, affirming the existence and continuation of love with undeniable proof. It has been said that old lovers are like Wi-Fi, just get a little closer, and the connection is re-established. It seems someone has already reconnected. The early summer heat was already intense, and without the air conditioning on in the car, I felt a chill run through my entire body. I didn't want to watch any longer. So I started the engine early and returned to the home that would soon no longer be mine. At 7 in the evening, Su Shaoqing finally brought our son back. The first thing our son said upon returning was, "Auntie Zhao, it was just me and Mom today, no one else. He's not good at lying after all." He gave it away in an instant. In front of his biological mother, I have automatically become Aunt Zhao with a prefix. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Su Shaoqing's face. But she quickly regained her usual elegance and composure. Just like the first time she brought Shun Sishao back, she brought me, the stepmother, many gifts, all high-end clothing and skincare products. My emotions were mixed, but I maintained my dignity and thanked my husband's ex-wife with a smile. "This is too extravagant," Shun Sishao immediately interjected. "It's no expense at all. My mom is very wealthy and doesn't care about such a small amount." Su Shaoqing politely stopped Shun Sishao and affectionately complained, "This child has been spoiled by me. She had only been back for 10 days and had only met Shen Xixiao 3 times, yet she had already managed to spoil him, and yet, my 7 years of persistent effort in raising him couldn't compare to her 3 instances of indulgence as his biological mother. After Su Shaoqing left, I brought out the food that had been warming in the pot. A plate of braised pork ribs and a plate of boiled shrimp, both of which Shen Xixiao usually loved to eat, but today, he didn't even glance at them and said loudly, "My mom took me to a 5-star hotel for dinner and we had top-grade steak, Japanese Wagyu beef. Have you heard of it?" I was really angry. Of course I've heard of it. I can't afford a villa with the money I make each month, but I can certainly afford a steak. I held back my rising temper and calmly asked him, "Does your father like it too? I know Shen Kai doesn't like beef." He once said that as a child, he witnessed a farmer slaughtering a cow on the street. The cow's cries were heart-wrenching and sorrowful, and from that moment on, he never ate beef again. So, since marrying him, I have never cooked beef at home, nor have I ever gone out with him to eat steak. But Shen Xixiao had already forgotten the lie he told when he first returned, and blurted out, "Of course my dad likes it. Whatever my mom likes, my dad likes too." Good, very good. Shen Xixiao went back to his room to play with the new toy his mother bought him. I waited alone in the living room for Shen Kai to return. Time passed minute by minute. The evening glow that had spread across the sky outside the window faded. Stars leaped onto the night sky, and eventually disappeared as well. Finally, there was movement outside the door. I woke up startled on the sofa, and Shen Kai was changing his shoes at the entrance. He was still dressed as he had been during the day, a white shirt, black trousers, looking every bit the refined scoundrel. Exhausted, he leaned against the wall by the entrance with his eyes closed. The dim light repeatedly traced his sharp, straight nose, deep-set eyes, and well-defined jawline. Back then, it was this very appearance of his that captivated me. And I fell into his vortex when I was barely in my early 20s. I know he is 10 years older than me. I also know he has a child. I even know that, to commemorate his ex, he named his son Shen Xixiao, Shen Kai missing Su Shaoqing. But I dropped out of school at 16 to work in a factory, and when the workshop supervisor groped me, I cracked his head open with a wrench. At 18, I sold alcohol in a bar, dealing with those customers with wandering hands every day. At 20, I rented a shop on the pedestrian street to sell clothes, always going to the wholesale market alone in the middle of the night to pick up goods. Before meeting Shen Kai, I had been navigating the world for 6 or 7 years. What bizarre and strange things haven't I seen? He's just a single man with a dependent child. Such a common setup. And that man is a doctor so handsome it makes you want to scream, with a Ph.D. degree, and he's the top surgeon in his department. What do I have to complain about? With overflowing hormones and a determination that wouldn't quit even in the face of death, I won over Shen Kai within a year. Not only did we end up in the same bed, but our names were also listed on the same household register, and Shen Xixiao was also hopping and skipping behind me all day, calling mommy, mommy. At that time, I thought I had one, but when I stretched the timeline to the present, it turns out I hadn't. Shen Kai finally saw me on the sofa. He took off his glasses, pinched the corners of his eyes, and asked me softly, "Why aren't you asleep yet?" Earlier in the day, when he saw Su Shaoqing, he was still affectionate and in high spirits. Now, even his voice was filled with exhaustion as he spoke to me. As he passed by me, I asked, "Was the steak good?" He suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned to look at me, as if trying to gauge how much I actually knew. I smiled. "I thought you really didn't like beef. Turns out, you just didn't like eating it with me." A hint of impatience showed on his face. "Don't be ridiculous, it's not what you think." I couldn't help but raise my voice and ask, "Am I being unreasonable? You missed the most important surgery just to see your ex. Who's really being unreasonable here, Shen Kai?" "You know what? You're terrible at lying. In the past, whenever you came home late, you never bothered to inform me in advance. But in the last 10 days, you've called me 3 times telling me not to wait up for you at night. And all 3 times, you were with Su Shaoqing, weren't you?" His face turned pale with anger, but he couldn't utter a word. At that moment, Shen Xixiao, who should have been sound asleep long ago, suddenly came out of his room and rushed over to push me hard. The 10-year-old boy was only slightly shorter than me, yet I was shoved so hard that I stumbled, in a panic. I grabbed the back of the sofa to avoid falling to the ground. He shouted at me angrily, "My dad and I just want to be with my real mom, to have our family together. You're an outsider. What right do you have to interfere with us?" An outsider. It felt like a heavy blow to the heart, and I stood there stunned. A full 7 years, over 2,000 days and nights, Shun Kai spent more time on the operating table than with his family. It was me, someone with no blood relation, who took care of this child as if he were my own, from when he was a little kid with a lisp who couldn't speak clearly, to now being articulate and often chosen as the young host for school events, from having such a weak constitution that he was hospitalized almost every week, to now not even sneezing for months and becoming a 9th-degree black belt in the children's taekwondo division. And now, this child calls me an outsider. I turned to look at Shun Kai. Shun Kai remained silent. Frowning slightly, he didn't utter a single word of reprimand for Shun Xiao's earlier behavior. I asked him with a trembling voice, "Do you think so too?" He pressed his temples and said, "Don't overthink it, go to bed early." At this moment, I suddenly didn't want to hold on anymore. "Let's get a divorce. The three of you, go and reunite." The divorce agreement was placed on the living room coffee table early the next morning. The division of assets was very clear. I intend to fight for the appreciation of the house and the joint savings. What doesn't belong to me, I won't take a penny more. The child is not biologically mine, so naturally he should go with him. When he got up, it was as if he had already forgotten about last night's events. While tying his tie, he said to me, "Xiao Xiao's mother wants to take him to Disneyland this weekend. When you drop Xiao Xiao off at school later, ask the teacher for leave in advance." I tapped the coffee table. "Take a look at the divorce agreement. If you have no objections, sign it. As for Xiao Xiao, from today on, he is no longer my child. I won't be taking him to school anymore." He suddenly looked up, his usually stern expression tinged with a hint of anger. "Zhao Yingying, you know what I dislike the most are the habits you've picked up from society. Crying, scolding, threatening suicide. None of that works on me. I'm warning you for the last time, don't test my patience." I almost laughed out loud. What have I gained from society? Resilience and independence. Clearly, society hasn't beaten me down enough. Otherwise I wouldn't have let love cloud my judgment and ended up with a divorced man who's still hung up on his ex during the prime of my life. I threw the divorce papers at him and unleashed my long-dormant street-smart attitude. "Shun Kai, if you're a real man, you better stop clinging to me. There are plenty of men out there to sleep with. And I sure as hell don't need your toothpick." His face instantly turned ashen, and he picked up the pen, swiftly signing his name. I went on a trip. After 7 years of marriage, Shun Kai and I never even had a honeymoon. The farthest we ever went was the suburban wholesale market where I sourced goods for my clothing store. Apart from running the store, my life revolved solely around taking care of the two men in the Shun family. My old friend Wang Nana used to joke that I had reformed too drastically, as if I were following a strict moral code. Back then, I would argue that it was because I had found the happiness I wanted. Little did I know it would all turn into a mess. A few high-speed train tickets, from one end of the country to the other. I went to the factory where I used to tighten screws at 16. I revisited the bar where I sold alcohol at 18. I had a meal with an old friend whom I used to dislike and who disliked me. I also walked through my hometown village, where no close relatives remain, trying to recognize each grave and burning paper offerings and incense for them. The old days flow before my eyes, and looking back, the world has changed beyond recognition. Yet what I taste in my mouth is the joy that remains, no matter how hard life gets. When did I start losing my happiness? Wang Nana was right, I have lost myself. From that moment on, I no longer knew how to truly be happy. A month passed by quickly. The day I returned to Hangzhou happened to be the end of the divorce cooling-off period. After getting off the plane, I went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Shun Kai remained as composed as ever. When it came time to sign, his hand holding the pen was as steady as when he held a scalpel. He had no objections to the division of property and even gave me an extra 200,000 yuan as compensation for the 7 years of my youth. I was devastated. 200,000 yuan for 7 years. That's less than 30,000 yuan per year for the depreciation of my youth. I returned the 200,000 yuan, smiled, and said, "You're already 40, approaching old age. You need this money more than I do. Shin Kai lowered his head, his bloodshot eyes flickering with a mix of light and shadow, and I actually caught a glimpse of sorrow in them. Shouldn't he be laughing triumphantly instead? His former lover has returned, the place by his side has been vacated, and his son has accepted his biological mother without hesitation while letting go of his stepmother. Everything has fallen into place so perfectly. What a match made in heaven. He's still here pretending to be heartbroken. Men are so hypocritical. I casually waved my hand, not even turning my head, and strode forward. That same day, I announced the news of my divorce on my social media feed. My girl Wang Nana, to celebrate for me, directly invited me to the bar. After a few glasses of fake alcohol, wearing my little skirt and dancing outdated moves, I still became the most flirtatious woman on the entire dance floor. The men surrounding me ranged from 20 to 50 years old, each with 8-pack abs and long legs, fully proving that my 30-year-old face and figure are still quite competitive. I partied at the bar until 2 or 3 in the morning, then stumbled back to the shop and fell into a dead sleep. When I woke up, there were already many passers-by outside the window, their voices clear and pleasant. Yet, a tall figure was sitting by the window, with intense eyes, sharply defined features, and a faint, meaningless smile at the corner of his lips. He seemed unapproachable. I let out a scream. He rushed towards me. Before I could even kick him away, he had already tightly wrapped his arms around my waist. He looked up, tears seemingly welling in his eyes, and choked out, "If you don't take responsibility for me, I'll crash to my death right in front of you." My mind went blank, and a massive wave of guilt instantly overwhelmed me. Then I remembered I'm divorced, and morality was thrown out the window. So what if I slept with a ridiculously handsome man? I deserved it. Then my brain started racing. Who is this? What happened? I didn't feel any external intrusion. Could it be that he's a toothpick? He reminded me in time. Check your social media feed first. I unlocked my phone and realized it was full of missed calls, nearly half of which were from Shin Kai. When I opened my social media feed and saw the latest post, it nearly blinded me. A full 9-square grid, all of me passionately kissing a man, from every angle, under various lighting. He looks even more engrossed than I do with his eyes closed, to the point where you could describe it as enjoying. The comments under the post are simply unbearable, all just teasing and joking around. Oh my god. Is this something you can watch for free, besides kissing? Is there anything even more exciting? I want to see it all. Let me download and save this quickly, in case it gets taken down by the system and I won't be able to see it again. These bastards really want to stir up more trouble. The man next to me looked at me with that "I didn't wrong you, did I?" expression. Holding my dizzy head, I couldn't remember this incident happening at the bar last night at all, at that moment. My phone rang again. I answered it in a daze, only to realize it was Shin Kai. On the other end, he fired off a rapid series of accusations. "Zhao Yingying, why aren't you answering my calls? Do you think provoking me makes you look impressive? Is fooling around with another man the reason you divorced me? I need you to give me an explanation." After 7 years of marriage, he had always been indifferent to me, never this agitated before, but he is so narcissistic. Thinking I pulled this stunt just to spite him, I was about to retort when, of all times, the man beside me let out a high-pitched howl, a woo. All 3 of us fell silent. A few seconds later, Shin Kai suddenly erupted in anger. "Zhao Yingying, what are you doing right now? Stop immediately. Don't let this become irreparable." The man reached over, snatched the phone, ended the call, and, for good measure, blocked Shin Kai's number for me. "Let's talk about us first." I grabbed the feather duster and chased the man out. Before pulling down the roller shutter, I pressed him. "Did you enjoy it when I was biting you?" He bit his lip and nodded shyly. "But I don't remember if I enjoyed it or not. You had a good time, I didn't. So who should be responsible for whom? Don't come looking for me again. I don't like messing around with strangers." Later, Wang Nana gave me an explanation. She said that after I got drunk at the bar, I jumped onto the dance floor, snatched the DJ's microphone, and yelled, "I'm divorced, the next one can start lining up." Then, among the men and women who swarmed over, I randomly hooked one and started making out. Wang Nana exclaimed, "What kind of hands do you have? With just a casual hook, you snagged an innocent handsome guy. You didn't even notice that after you let go of him, both his ears turned completely red. Later, he insisted on walking you back to the shop." How could I possibly stand in the way of a budding romance? I don't want to know the details of last night. As a woman who once sold drinks in a bar, I really feel like I've let down those years of work experience. The drinks in the bar are all fake. How can you enjoy them freely? That drink really hits you hard. Wang Nana asked persistently. So, did he stay over? Was he good in bed? Good my foot? No, nothing happened at all. Okay. The clothes I'm wearing are still the same ones I had on when I went to the bar last night, not a single piece missing. But if nothing happened, why did he wait at my shop for most of the night? Could it really be just to claim compensation? I rested for 2 whole days before I finally regained my energy. First, I hired a construction crew to renovate my shop, making it more stylish and atmospheric. During this time, a mutual friend of mine and Shunkai's called to ask me, "Why did you and Dr. Shun get divorced? Was it because his ex came back?" I didn't answer directly. The other person seemed to have already drawn a conclusion. No wonder Dr. Shun has been skipping surgeries so often lately. The hospital has suspended his work and given him a major demerit. A 40-year-old man so lovesick that he's willing to throw away his career. It's really a pity. This news truly surprised me, yet it was also within my expectations. Although Shinkai regarded work as his life, everything paled in comparison to Su Shaoqing. Now that he was suspended from his duties, he had plenty of time to pursue his old flame. After the shop was renovated and reopened, I began preparing for live streaming sales. I had several thousand followers on my social media account, and I had previously hosted live streams to sell clothes from the store. Later, Shen Xixiao asked me naively, "Mom, what does selling goods mean? The doctors at Dad's hospital said you're a selling goods person." This wasn't the first time the hospital doctors had gossiped about me. In the first year of my marriage to Shinkai, I attended their hospital's annual party. The family members who came were either PhDs or master's degree holders, with very few even having just a bachelor's degree. I overheard them whispering and discussing, "Did you know, Dr. Shun's second wife only has a junior high school education? I never thought Dr. Shun would be so conventional, only caring about looks." I entered society right after junior high, not because I was a poor student, but because my family was poor. Life has worn me down for over 20 years without smoothing my edges, but from that day on, I learned the meaning of the word inferiority for the first time. Since then, I've never attended any hospital events that required bringing a spouse. I don't want my man to be embarrassed in front of others, and Shinkai never invited me again. Similarly, I don't want Shen Xixiao to have any negative feelings because of me. I told him that salespeople are also laborious. They earn money through their own hard work, just like any other profession, and are no less dignified than any other job. But in the end, I still stopped the live streaming and just stuck to the physical store, watching the business get worse and worse. The trend of online selling is irreversible, so I need to restart my live streaming. There's nothing shameful about this. On the day the new equipment arrived, taking advantage of the lunchtime lull with no customers in the store, I set up the equipment in the specially prepared live streaming area. Another person entered the shop, intense eyes, sharply defined features, a faint, meaningless smile lingering at the corners of his lips, unapproachable. It was the claim guy I had passionately kissed at the bar that day, who later chased after me demanding compensation. I scowled and asked him, "What are you here for? Just call the police, tell them I harassed you, and let the law decide. Whatever the judgment is, I'll pay." He pouted, spread his arms and legs, and plopped down on the single sofa. "I won't call the police, I'll just wait for your conscience to kick in. Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have that thing." I ignored him and continued adjusting the equipment. He rushed over and snatched the screwdriver from my hand. "If your conscience doesn't kick in, I'll wreck all your equipment." Under his threat, he fixed the broken light stand, set up the phone holder, wiped the dust off the microphone, and even mopped the floor, and it was quite clean. When closing the shop that day, he walked out proudly, saying, "I'll come again tomorrow." The next day, he arrived on time and helped me upgrade the broadband. On the third day, he came again and even helped me announce the live stream schedule, with a male model-like person appearing in the shop every day. Young girls flocked in, and the business has improved quite a bit. Although this is a good thing, nothing in this world comes for free, apart from stumbling in marriage. I was never naive in my youth, and now that I'm over 30, it's even more impossible. How do you want me to compensate you? I asked him. 5,000, is that enough? He seemed to have suffered a great humiliation, his hands covering his chest, his narrow eyes exaggeratedly brimming with moisture. My first kiss, is it only worth 5,000? First kiss, I looked him up and down a few times. No matter how you look at it, he's at least in his late 20s. Resembling a domineering CEO when he's not smiling, and dazzlingly charming when he is. Saying someone like this has never kissed before, who are you trying to fool? I impatiently held up one finger. 10,000, not a penny more. Although I got some money from the divorce, it was earned through 7 years of hard work, not something that fell from the sky. 10,000 for a kiss. Phut, I can't believe I'd even consider such a lousy deal. I've really wasted my time in this world. But the other party once again put on a steadfast and unyielding attitude, chattering away. Wealth and rank cannot make me dissipated. Very well, are you showing off that you've been educated? I raised the feather duster, and he ran outside. When I chased after him, I heard a child's voice from the side, drawn out in a long tone. Mommy. I turn around, it's Shen Xixiao, it's a school day. He's wearing his uniform and carrying a backpack, yet he came here. Clearly, he skipped class. I was just about to speak when the man with the claim, hands in his pockets, looked down at Shen Xixiao and said in an even colder tone, Kid, as far as I know, the lady beside me hasn't given birth yet. Please don't call her mom so casually, okay? His face was pulled long, as if he were born without the ability to smile, yet he raised an eyebrow at me, his entire face saying, That's right, I did go and find out about you. I admit, in the more than 2 months since I left the Shen family, I have missed Shen Xixiao. That month of traveling was especially intense. Once I returned to the hotel and had free time, I would think about my previous marriage. It was then that I realized my feelings for this child were actually stronger than those for Shen Kai. Love is a feeling. Once it fades, the excitement suddenly diminishes. But family ties can be a kind of bond. I still remember the first time I met Shen Xixiao. He was not even 3 years old. He had a fever and was brought to the hospital by his nanny. The nanny placed Xixiao on the office desk, complaining that the child was too difficult to take care of, and she quit on the spot. Leaving just like that, Shen Kai has been in the operating room since early this morning and hasn't come out yet. Only I, infatuated with Shen Kai, came to his office early to wait for him. Cici was burning up, his little face flushed red, his hair soaked with sweat, crying and calling for his father non-stop. I was the one who held him in my arms, took him to the pediatric department to register, and arranged for his hospitalization. When the doctor asked me what my relationship with the patient was, Xixiao watched with wide, round eyes from the side. It was he who took the initiative to call out the word mom. At that moment, I thought, this must be the fate between me and Shen Kai. Even his son called me mom the first time he saw me. If this isn't a match made in heaven, then what is? Back then, I was just in my early 20s, yet I felt a motherly love for someone else's son, and it grew stronger with each passing day. It wasn't until 7 years later that he defined me as an outsider. Now, he's come looking for me, this outsider. The man claiming compensation stretched his legs out on the single sofa, his displeasure clearly written all over his face. I took a towel and wiped the dust off Shen Xixiao's face. Asking him calmly, Why aren't you going to school? He pursed his lips and held back for a long time before saying in a low voice, I miss my mom. The man demanding compensation let out a heavy impage. Shen Xixiao's eyes instantly reddened. I know, he's not a child who cries easily. Ever since he became obsessed with Superman at the age of 4 or 5, he rarely sheds tears. But at this moment, his eyes are already moist. My heart ached as if pricked by needles. My hand reached out to wipe his tears, but then I pulled it back. He is different from before. He and his biological mother have already found their way to each other. I shouldn't overstep my boundaries. I handed him a bottle of orange soda. After you finish the soda, I'll have them come pick you up. The claimant immediately protested loudly. I object. I ignored him and only urged Shen Xixiao. The 10-year-old child did not reach for the soda, and tears began to fall again. He started crying. I don't want to go back. I miss my mom. I want to be with my mom. Your mom lives in a fairy-tale-like villa. No, my mom is here. He rushed over and wrapped his arms around my waist. The man demanding compensation looked even more displeased. With one hand, he grabbed Shen Sishao by the collar and pulled him aside. Then he tossed my phone back to me. I suppressed the turmoil in my heart and made a phone call to Su Shaoqing. But the one who came to pick me up was Shen Kai. Shen Kai was wearing a custom-made suit, his tie impeccably tied. Having climbed into the upper class, his spending habits were no longer what they used to be. He didn't take Shen Sishao away immediately. Instead, he wanted to sit down, assuming a posture for a long conversation. The claim man beat him to it and took the single sofa first, feeling quite smug about winning the first move, raising his eyebrows exaggeratedly. Shen Kai recognized who this person was. And his expression grew even more unpleasant. He suggested to me, "Let's go outside and talk." Okay, I didn't know what he wanted to say, but ever since I decided to divorce him, I didn't want to waste any more time on him. Not even a minute. I hadn't even spoken yet. But the claims guy immediately stood up and wrapped his arm around my shoulder as if declaring his territory. "She doesn't want to be alone with you." I pinched him hard, but his muscles were as hard as stone. And he didn't flinch at all. Shen Kai's hands clenched tightly into fists, and seeing that I didn't push the person beside me away, his expression darkened in an instant. I had no choice but to say, "If you have something to say, just say it here," he murmured in a low voice, as if speaking to himself, "Ying. To be honest, when I divorced you back then, it was out of impulse. So, do you regret it now?" As soon as I asked, the man beside me, who was seeking compensation, held me even tighter. Shen Kai remained silent, neither admitting nor denying it. For the first time in my life, I felt that Shen Kai was despicable, because he had clearly already started preparing for the wedding with Su Shaoqing. After Su Shaoqing added me, neither of us deleted each other. Over the past half-month, I learned from her social media that she had started choosing a date, booking a wedding dress, and looking for diamond brands. Look, how timely I stepped aside. The Wi-Fi is really connected. Now he says he acted on impulse. One of the reasons I fell in love with him before was his noble character, free from the greasy indifference of worldly people. Back then, he was glowing all over. But now, he has promised marriage to another woman while telling his ex-wife that he acted on impulse. What? Want to remarry me? I took his phone out of his pocket and directly dialed Su Shaoqing's number. "Tell her you regret it and don't want to marry her anymore," I said. Looking at him provocatively, the phone was quickly answered on the other end, and Su Shaoqing's gentle voice came through. "Honey, have you picked up Xiao Xiao?" I mouthed to urge him. "Say it, say you're not getting married." After a moment of panic, his expression returned to his usual gentleness. "I've picked her up. I'll be back soon." I smiled. Laugh at me for being blind 7 years ago. I misjudged him. This man is not a real man. When Shen Kai left with their son, Shen Sishao kept calling out "Mom" repeatedly. The man beside me shouted loudly, "What kind of mother is she to you? Stop acting crazy." From this day on, Shen Kai kept contacting me. I had already blocked his number, so he couldn't call, but he actually thought of using food delivery to send messages. Every day, along with the food I received, there would be a message on the order slip. "I miss you so much today. I thought of you again today." As a medical prodigy capable of writing complex theses and the head of the department, his language was surprisingly impoverished. Of course, all the takeout ended up in the compensation-seeking man's stomach. While chewing heartily, he would also comment on each message on the list one by one. "Not a bit of romance. What kind of confession is this? Your ex-husband is so dull that is reassuring." I snatched the lunchbox from his hand. "Don't you have a home of your own? Don't you have a job? What are you trying to do by shamelessly clinging to me? A grown man without a job, just loafing around and freeloading all day. Aren't you ashamed?" The playful grin on his face slowly faded, and his expression gradually turned blank. This is the first time I've seen him so serious, and it's actually a bit frightening. If he were to suddenly go crazy the next second, given his size, I'd be the one getting beaten up. At this moment, I felt a bit of regret and was thinking about how to change the awkward situation when he spoke up. "Sister Ying, do you really not remember me?" After he left, I thought about his words for a long time. Don't I remember him? What should I remember about him? I was born in the countryside and drifted around after dropping out of school. I've seen handsome guys, but none as pure and shy as him. I've met idle people, but none with his looks. Later in Hangzhou, illness brought me together with Shen Kai. Shin Kai is practically the pinnacle of outstanding men one could meet in real life, yet even someone as exceptional as Shin Kai seemed to pale in comparison when standing next to him. If I had met him before, I definitely wouldn't have forgotten. So, who exactly is he? But no matter what, I still managed to get rid of him during the days when Shin Kai continued ordering takeout. My live streaming sales finally went online. Although I have a certain fan base, due to my long absence from updates, there aren't many active followers left. Before the livestream, I was worried that the initial sales would be too dismal. So I specifically asked Wang Nana to stay in the livestream room and comment frequently to offset the bleak atmosphere. But I never expected that as soon as the link went live, it sold out in just 1 second. The 5 clothing styles I prepared in advance were completely insufficient to meet the demand. Wang Nana was astonished. Wow, your divorce has really turned your luck around. Even the god of wealth is paying attention to you. The same thing happened again the next night, and again on the 3rd day, in just 3 days. I sold $500,000 worth of goods, and the progress was so smooth it was almost unbelievable. But then things took a turn for the worse. Due to limited experience and insufficient preparation, the warehouse simply didn't have that much stock. Wang Nana and I had to go to the wholesale market before dawn to get the goods, and once back at the store, we buried ourselves in packing. It was only during this packing process that we discovered something was off. Nearly 90% of the delivery addresses are the same, and it just happens to be in Hangzhou. Looking at the property address, it's a villa community famous for being a gathering place for celebrities, and it's shockingly expensive. Wang Nana was full of surprise. When did you get to know someone so wealthy? His way of pursuing you is both tacky and extravagant, yet so subtle. A shadow suddenly leaped into my mind. Wang Nana and I went directly to that residential area. When we arrived at the entrance of the residential area, I used Wang Nana's phone to dial the number left by the recipient. After the phone rang 3 times, the other party answered. I deliberately lowered my voice and said, "Is this 1 second late to lose the whole world? You have a delivery, but the security won't let us in. Could you please come out to get it?" The other party didn't say much, just gave a brief before hanging up. 10 minutes later, a familiar figure appeared at the entrance of the residential complex, 6'3", long legs, and just like the first time I saw him. He was wearing a sleeveless tank top that outlined his full pectoral muscles and a solid 8-pack. I let out a cold laugh. The moment he saw me, he covered his face and turned to leave. I raised my voice and asked, "What are you so guilty about? You dare to do it but not admit it." He paused in his steps, turned around, and acted as if he had just noticed me, putting on an exaggerated show of surprise. "Oh, what a coincidence to run into you here. I'm absolutely furious. What do you mean? Is it fun to mess with me like this? Do you think having money makes you so great?" Though he stood as tall and straight as a poplar tree, he slowly lowered his head and said quietly, "If it's useless to you, then having money isn't anything great." Wang Nana nudged me, giving me a meaningful look, and whispered, "Why are you being so fierce? What a high-quality suitor. Your ancestors must have blessed you to meet a man like this. Don't be ungrateful." After scolding me, she smiled like a sunflower and stepped forward to ask him with great warmth, "Do you like my ying?" His earlobes instantly turned bright red. He stole a glance at me and nodded gently. Wang Nana then asked, "How long have you liked her?" "For a long time," the claim guy said sheepishly. Wang Nana let out a wow, her eyes instantly lighting up. "Who else is in your family? What's your annual income? Is this villa in the community rented or bought? Can you make your own decisions about marriage? You don't happen to have a prearranged engagement, do you? Any illegitimate children on the outside? A white moonlight in your heart? Have you completely cut ties with your ex? Our Ying won't be anyone's substitute. And she's not going to play stepmother again." She asked a series of questions in an instant. With such talent, it would be a waste not to become a professional matchmaker. Seeing that she was about to dig deeper, I stepped forward, covered her mouth, and tried to drag her away, but my phone rang at the worst possible moment. It was a call from Zhong, the homeroom teacher of Shen Xixiao. I didn't want to answer at first, but the other party was persistent and kept calling. When I answered, the other person said urgently, "Xixiao's mom. Hurry to the People's Hospital. Shen Xixiao passed out from stomach pain, and I'm already taking him to the hospital in an ambulance." On the way to the hospital, I was restless. The man whose name I didn't even know was driving in front, occasionally glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Wang Nana held my hand to comfort me. Don't worry, you've always taken such good care of Xiao Xiao. He's in great physical shape, so nothing could be wrong. Besides, isn't his biological mother from a wealthy family? Rich people can cure any illness. The man in front demanding compensation snorted. He has his own mother. Why would he call you? That remark reminded me. I thought for a moment and called Su Shaoqing. No one answered the call. I had to leave her a message. Xiao Xiao is sick and was taken to the people's hospital by the teacher. Please go there as soon as you see this message. By the time I got to the hospital, Shen Xiao had already been taken into the operating room. It was acute appendicitis, and he needed immediate surgery, the homeroom teacher said. Before Shen Xiao went into surgery, he kept telling me that if his mother came, please don't let her leave, he wants to see her the moment he wakes up. I forced a pale smile. This mom most likely refers to his biological mother. Shen Kai also arrived quickly, but Su Shaoqing was nowhere to be seen. Outside the quiet operating room, only a wall clock silently counted the time. After the surgery, Shen Xiao was brought out by the medical staff. The anesthesia was beginning to wear off, and he opened his eyes. At the first sight of me, he struggled and faintly called out, "Mom." I stepped forward and held his cold hand, whispering, "I'm here." Shen Xiao settled into the hospital room, and by the time the caregiver arrived, it was already 7 p.m. The stubborn child kept staring at me but couldn't resist the effects of the medicine, holding my hand as he drifted into a deep sleep. I slowly withdrew my hand. It was time for me to leave. The claimant man stayed in the hospital room the whole time. Seeing that I was about to leave, he immediately followed me out of the room. He exaggeratedly said, "If he keeps monopolizing you, I'm going to burst his daydream. He can't take advantage of his illness to take my life." "How is that taking your life?" I curled my lips. We ran into Shen Kai, who was out buying food. He seemed a bit surprised. "Leaving already? When Xiao Xiao wakes up later." The man making the claim said bluntly, "Let him go find his own mother. A 10-year-old kid still running around calling random women mom. How absurd." I gently closed the door of the hospital room and took a few steps forward. The two men followed along as well. I turned back to look at Shen Kai. He, about to enter marriage, doesn't seem as radiant as one might imagine. He has lost a lot of weight, and under the glaring fluorescent lights of the hospital, a few silver strands seem to have appeared at his temples. He has indeed grown old. I looked into his eyes and said seriously, "When Xiao Xiao wakes up, tell him for me not to let the teacher call me again in the future." "But you are his mother." I suddenly laughed. "Dr. Shen, what kind of mother am I? You should understand. Since we divorced, I have no relationship with him whatsoever. Besides, his biological mother loves him too." He fell silent, his usually upright back even seeming to stoop. I've called off the wedding with Shaoqing." He let out a bitter laugh. "You know what? When I had the chance to start over with her, I realized my heart was completely filled with you. The passion you had when you pursued me, the occasional capriciousness when you were in a mood, the playful poses we struck together in front of the house when you sent Xiao Xiao off to school." His gaze gradually grew fervent. "Yingying, can we start over? Both Xiao Xiao and I can't live without you." "Impossible." I immediately refused. He looked resolute. "I don't believe it. We were so happy together. I must win you back. I really don't want to get involved in any more trouble with him. The daily takeout orders he places to the shop are enough to annoy me." I took a deep breath, turned back, and asked the man making the claim beside me, "Last time I kissed you, did you enjoy it?" He was momentarily stunned by my abrupt change of topic, then quickly nodded. "Good. Let me give you another enjoyable time," I said to Shen Kai. "Look carefully." I reached out and hooked my arm around the claim man's neck, stood on tiptoe, and pressed my lips to his. When I let go, the claim man was panting, his face flushed red, beads of sweat on the tip of his nose, and his eyes still squinted. When he opened his eyes, his body suddenly trembled, as if waking from a dream. Then he ran off like a rabbit, disappearing in the blink of an eye. I was stunned for a moment. Then turned to Shen Kai and said, "As you can see, I've started a new relationship and I'm enjoying it. I'm no longer interested in how you're doing. So please stop doing these pointless things." He wore a constipated expression, as if he had been hit hard by witnessing that kiss, yet he refused to give up. No, no, you're just acting on impulse, and you've met the wrong person. Look at your little boyfriend. He kissed you and ran off, completely unreliable. Ying, I don't mind any of this. As long as you're willing to come back. He launched into several rounds of back-and-forth arguments, and no matter what I said, he still clung on desperately. Back when I was pursuing him, it was really tough. After we got married and started our life together, he rarely put any effort into our relationship. I used to think how wonderful it would be if he could treat me the way I cherished him back then. But now that he's come back to pursue me, it just makes me feel annoyed. My love for him has completely vanished. He suddenly knelt on one knee, ignoring the medical staff and patients coming and going around him, looked up at me firmly, and said, Ying, marry me. You always said you've never been proposed to in your life. Now I solemnly ask you to marry me again. At that moment, heavy footsteps suddenly echoed from a distance. In just a few breaths, a tall figure came into view, the man who had been demanding compensation, drenched in sweat. Lunged forward from a few steps away, knelt and slid several meters on his knees, pushed Shinkai aside, and stopped right in front of me. I live alone at home, and I work in the robotics road business. The company is a startup, so my income is unstable, but last year it reached 20 million. I bought my villa. And there's another one next to it that my parents left me before they passed away. I have no marriage contract, nor any children out of wedlock. I have no exes. There's only one person in my heart, my white moonlight, and she's standing right in front of me now. He knelt before me, holding a red velvet box in his hands. Inside the box lay a sparkling diamond ring. MS, Zhao Ying, I am Chu Jingxing. Will you marry me? When I was 14, there was an old bachelor in the village who spent 50,000 yuan to buy a son from a human trafficker to take care of him in his old age and carry on his legacy. The old man named his son Guo, because a humble name is easier to raise, but his real name was actually Chu Jingxing. I know this because, back then, the old man would beat him until he hid everywhere, just to make him recognize his home. At that time, he was already 10 years old, an age said to be too old to be tamed. If he hadn't been sold cheap, the old man wouldn't have bought him. Once he hid in the pigsty at my home. After school, I went to feed the pigs and saw him. My parents passed away early, leaving only my grandfather and me to rely on each other. That day, I made him a full meal, and my grandfather gave him a set of clean clothes to change into. In the end, my grandfather carried a wooden pole, and I held the shepherd's whip as we went together to confront the old man. If you can raise him, raise him. If you can't, give the child back to his family. The old man hid in the house and retorted, Why should I? I paid 50,000 for this child. Why should I give him back? But he was also afraid that my grandfather would actually take action, so he didn't dare to beat Guo severely again after that. Not long after this incident, the old man went out drinking and died drunk outside. My grandfather and I took Guo to the town police station to report that he was a trafficked child. The police collected the information and were originally going to send him to a welfare home before finding his family. Throughout the journey, only our family had shown him kindness. He trusted no one else, crying and insisting on going with us, so the police let him stay at my place first, to wait until they found his family before taking him away. That stay ended up lasting 2 years. 2 years later, the police found information about his parents and came to take him away. Before leaving, he said with a determined face, Sister Ying, wait for me. I will definitely come back with money to treat Grandpa's illness. At that time, Grandpa's health was already very poor. He had only been gone for 3 months when Grandpa passed away. I buried Grandpa, dropped out of school, and went out into the world. The last impression Guo left me with was still that of a dark-skinned, skinny, introverted little kid. I never would have thought that after more than a decade, he would have turned out to be the person he is today. At the hospital, in front of Shinkai, I did accept Guo's diamond ring and, amid the applause of the onlookers, walked away hand in hand with him, fingers intertwined, and seeing the look of utter despair on Shinkai's face was indeed satisfying. But now, I still returned the diamond ring to him, Chu Jingxing, although we have some shared past, after more than a decade. We are practically strangers now. I know it was unfair of me to use you to fend off Shinkai just now, but I truly don't want to jump into another relationship so quickly. I'm sorry, if you feel hurt. I'll just make it up to you by making you feel good again. I tightly closed my eyes and puckered my lips forward. Anyway, I'm in my 30s, so being kissed by a young hottie isn't such a bad deal. I stood waiting in the evening breeze, sensing the figure in front of me take a step closer. Finally, a hand with distinct knuckles gently touched my cheek. Something warm suddenly appeared on my forehead, then vanished. I opened my eyes in a daze and instinctively touched my temple, which still felt warm and damp. He smiled and took a step back. All his usual teasing gone in that moment. Zhao Ying, please promise me that if one day you want a love that lasts a lifetime, you'll consider me first, okay? He gazed at me deeply, as if gathering all the starlight in the world into his eyes. What if I say no? No, guess what? If I want to have a good time, do you think you can escape my grasp? At the age of 35, I got married again. On the night of the wedding, my second husband, Chu Jingsheng, took me on our honeymoon. We had originally planned to travel all over the world, but after visiting just over a dozen cities, we discovered I was pregnant. So we had to return to Hangzhou to prepare for the baby. On the day I went to the hospital to give birth, there was a commotion outside the delivery room. At that time, I had just given birth to my daughter and was too exhausted to speak, so I didn't pay much attention. Later, I found out that Shen Kai, whom I hadn't been in contact with for years, had somehow learned about my hospitalization and came to see me quietly, only to run into Chu Jingsheng. The two of them got into a fight. According to the caregiver, a 40-year-old man is no match for someone in their 20s. He can only take a beating. It seems that the reason I didn't see Shen Kai during my hospital stay was because he couldn't beat Chu Jingsheng. No wonder Chu Jingsheng was in such a particularly good mood those days. After leaving the hospital, I went straight to a postpartum care center. Chu Jingsheng, drawing from previous experience, used his company's robotic surveillance equipment to set up a scene downstairs at the postpartum care center. Before long, an alarm sounded from downstairs, then came the shouts of a few reckless teenagers. "Mom, I'm looking for my mom." I could tell it sounded like Shen Xixiao's voice. The boy had already reached the age of voice change, yet the trailing tone of his speech still carried the traces of his childhood. I did not get up. He would eventually understand that last year's rain cannot water this summer's flowers. Some things are in the past, so let them stay there. Chu Jingsheng held his daughter and slowly walked to the balcony. I heard him say arrogantly, "Kid, not just anyone can call my wife mom. Dr. Shen, can you keep your son under control?" End of text. Shen Xixiao's side story. The nanny said I don't have a mother. She was wrong. Later, my mother came to our home, and she was as gentle as I had imagined. With a touch of playfulness in her gentleness, she would carry me on her back to kindergarten, and when saying goodbye to my dad, she would always say in a funny voice, "Master, your old disciple is off." When she went to the suburbs to stock up for her clothing store, she would remind me, "Pigsy, take good care of the master." Back then, I felt like the happiest child in the whole world, because the other kids' moms were always so serious, but my mom and I are like friends. As I grew a bit older, I overheard people talking. It turned out that my mom isn't my biological mother, she's my stepmother. Even though she treats me just as well as when I was little, I still sometimes wonder what my biological mother is like. I once found a photo of a woman in a hidden folder on my dad's office computer. She had big wavy hair, wore an elegant gown, and smiled with grace and poise. At that moment, I was certain she was my biological mother. A year after finding that photo, I met her in person. She looks almost exactly like the person in the photo. When she looks at me, she is as warm and kind as I imagined. I was overjoyed. She takes me out to eat, buys me the most expensive toys, and can take me abroad to play anytime. I feel like I'm in a dream every day. When I found out that my dad and mom were getting married, I was so happy I could have jumped for joy. I finally have a complete family. At that time, I forgot that I had another mother. I also forgot that I had said very harsh words, which hurt her heart, until my biological mother started teaching me manners. No making faces casually, no skipping or hopping while walking. Even in the heat of summer, I had to wear a full suit and tie a bow tie tightly around my collar. These rules made me uncomfortable. I could never remember them. So my mother would always scold me, "You haven't learned a single good thing from your stepmother." Dad was not having an easy time either. When I met him, he was also wearing a stiff suit. his body rigid like a puppet on strings. Seeing me drenched in sweat, he quietly asked if I was tired. I said, "I miss Mom, not this Mom, it's the Mom from before." I miss her smiling and saying, "Baji, protect the master. I want to eat the savory soy milk and egg tarts she made herself. I want to nestle in her arms and keep calling her Mom." But now, all of that is gone. Dad had several conflicts with my biological mom because of her strict discipline toward me. The last time, Dad yelled at her, "Xiao Xiao is just a child. Why do you have to do things that stifle his nature? Can't you treat him like Yingying?" My biological mother screamed, "If she's so good, then get the hell out and go find her." That day was the last time I saw my biological mother, just like when I was born. She abandoned me and my father once again. And from that day on, I had no mother, neither a biological mother nor a stepmother. Many years later, at my father's funeral, Aunt Zhao appeared quietly. I wanted to say a few more words to her, but her husband was by her side, just as he had vigilantly guarded her for many years. He once again warned me not to call her Mom carelessly, then took her away. "Mom, I no longer have the right to call you that, but Mom, you will always be my mother." Chu Jingxing's side story. I was abducted when I was 10 years old. I was 12 years old when I returned home. I had promised to repay the person who saved me, but shortly after returning home, a series of events occurred. My parents passed away one after another. By the time I went back to look for them, the small village no longer had the person I was searching for. Grandpa has passed away. Sister Yingying is also gone. The villagers said that Sister Yingying went out to work. She has no relatives in the village, and it's uncertain whether she will ever come back. When I met Sister Yingying at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, it had already been 15 years since we parted. It has been the 15th year that I have been searching for her. I pretended to be a passerby and overheard her conversation with her ex-husband, learning that she was getting a divorce. Heaven is truly on my side. Then she took a taxi to the high-speed rail station. I immediately had my assistant temporarily take over the company and went to the high-speed rail station. In a month, she traveled all over the country. I quietly followed her, as if I had walked through her entire youth. Although she was traveling, she didn't seem very happy. Countless times I wanted to step forward and reunite with her, but I always held back because of her deep melancholy. I know that some pains in this world can only be healed alone. All I could do was sit at a nearby table in the small tavern, keeping her company while she drank alone late at night, on the high-speed train. When she gazed out the window at the rushing scenery, I quietly stopped travelers who might disturb her peace. The journey ended, and she returned to Hangzhou to get divorced. On the night of the divorce, she went to a bar. Of course, I had to follow. The music was blaring as if it were about to explode, and she, completely drunk, rushed onto the stage and snatched the microphone from the DJ. I ran towards her with all my might, hearing her voice through the microphone, "I'm divorced now. The next one can start lining up." At this moment, she was stunningly and breathtakingly beautiful. A sudden uproar broke out, and countless men and women crowded around her. I used all my strength, even resorting to kicking, and finally managed to get ahead. Then she hooked her arm, her slender and soft arm wrapping around my neck. She kissed me. My mind exploded with fireworks. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.